All right, hello everybody. This is Brian and Leslie Fathery. Oh no, it's not. We have a special podcast going for you today. It's not Brian and Leslie. It is Brian, as you know by my voice. But I have with me today two of my three beautiful daughters. I have Megan and I have Abby Fathery with me on the YouTube channel. That is Wave Podcast. You didn't see that, but they waved at you, just so you know. At least Abby did, because she's my little bit more bubbly one and Megan's a little bit more of my laid back one. Um, so this should be fun. We're going to do that all this month. We've been talking to you guys about um, sowing seeds into your family. And one of the ways that you can sow seeds into your family is if you take time with your children. So we're going to talk about daddy-daughter dates. We're also going to talk about father-son dates. I would talk to you about mommy-daughter and mommy-son, but mommy's not in the room with us today. So I want to take just a quick moment or two before I let the girls take over the podcast and make it a whole lot better because they're better and brighter than I am. Um, but I want to talk to you about, gentlemen, talk to you about taking your sons out on a date. You don't have to call it a date. You know, it could be a bromance thing. It could be a dad, son, get them, macho, whatever you want to do it. However you want to do that, it's fine. But I always, especially when they were younger, uh, took all of my children on times alone, one on one. I never combined multiple children with a father daughter, father son time out. I always took them individually. I did make an exception sometimes with my boys. For those of you who know us a little bit, have heard some of our story, we have a Matthew who has autism, and we believe is still overcoming autism. And so sometimes one on one with him didn't work as well. So I would bring Scott with me, and Scott and I would talk, and Matthew would eat, and or watch the movie or whatever it was that we did together, go for a walk or whatever it is. Now we have done a podcast earlier. Uh, go back into where you get your podcast at, or go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com / the Unbreakable Family, and write in uh, I lost my thought. Oh, I remember now. Love languages. We talked about love languages. So it's important to know each of your children's love languages when you go out with them. And I'll give you a couple examples as we go forward. I'll start with Scott, my oldest son. Um, Scott's love language, really, with me, is quality time. Mm-hmm. We talk, we visit, but he just wants to spend time with his dad. They talk about how values are caught more than they're taught. Well, Scott's a great example of that. So we would go out and do that. Or we go out and work in the yard. We'd go out to eat. We go to a movie, and then we would talk after the movie. Go out and get a sandwich or a drink, non-alcoholic, just so you I'm clarified. And we would do that and talk about the movie, what we liked, what we didn't like, because we don't always agree on what we like and don't like, but it's a fun topic discussion at that point, and we enjoy doing that. So that's something that I've always done with my children. Again, more so when they're younger than when they're older, but we still do it even now. I'll kidnap a child. They're laughing because that's what I call it. I'm like, hey, I'm kidnapping you for a little bit, and sometimes we schedule it, sometimes it's spur of the moment, and I just take them. It could be for ice cream, it could be for a sandwich, it could be for a full meal. If it's going to be a little bit more formal of a really nice meal, I'll give them a heads up and a warning, so they're not going in their jammies and their flip flops to Red Lobster. Right. They're coming looking good. So especially the girls, the guys don't care nearly as much, but the girls are like, I have to have the right shirt on with the right shoes, gotta have the right accessories. I'll be with you in 3 hours when I get my hair done. All of that has to happen. So you have to be considerate of that when you're doing the daddy daughter, and not as much the son father thing, because I can, hey Scott, let's go do this, and unless his schedule's full from work or a social activity, he's like, yeah, let's go. And so the girls are not that way. So it's learning the difference between your sons and your daughters. It's also learning their love languages. You need to know specifically their love language. Like I was saying, Scott, how we got into this whole mess. Scott is a quality time person. Abby is a touchy-feely, huggy person.
Yeah.
She also has quality time, but if you're not holding her, hugging her, and I aggravate her all the time because she'll come over and hug me, and I'll hug her for a little bit, and then I poke her, and then I tease with her, and she's like, "Really? Having a nice hug, and you ruined it." You heard the that was Abby. The giggle was Megan. Megan is not as much a touchy-feely person, but she's a words person. So if I want to really encourage Megan, I get to say really good things about her, or about her writing. She's an author or something. You know, maybe she looks especially nice that day, and she'll soak that up. You just got to know, dads, and it takes time. You know, a couple videos back, a couple podcasts back, I talked about studying my wife and knowing things about my wife because I spent a lifetime studying her ideas, her thoughts, her moves, her actions, the way she wants to do things, what she doesn't want to do things. I spent a lifetime doing that. I still get surprised from time to time, not often, but from time to time. And so I just want to encourage you, do the same thing with your children. Study them, watch them, learn how they think, learn how they act, learn what they do. It'll help you a couple ways. One, it'll help you when we do what we're talking about, this personal time with them. It'll also help you see problems coming because you know how they act, and you can intervene before the problem hits really, really big. So just some little side notes before we get started. With that, I want to introduce you to Megan Fatheree.
Hello.
And Abby Fatherees.
Hi.
Hi. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to have a conversation about daddy-daughter dates and time that they've had with me as their father. And from their perspective, not just our perspective as parents, but from their perspective as children and siblings, because it matters. What that meant to them, what that still means to them, and why they like or don't like. we really haven't prepped this. There's no script here. What they like and didn't like about those things, and how that affected their self-esteem, their faith, their love for each other, their love for their family, their love for their parents. All of that plays in with that. So that said, girls, I'll start with you, Megan, just because you're the oldest of the two in the room. Let's start when you were little, and then I will go to Abby, and we'll talk about the little stuff.
Little ones.
Then we'll go like middle age, which I know you're not. Middle age to where you're at now. One of them is in their 20s. The other one is not quite 20. So just so you know, and we'll go, teen years, and then beyond teen years, but you're not quite there, Abby, but where you're at currently.
Yeah. She's gonna count. I get the point.
But she turns 20 this year. She reminds her mother, so she thinks she's 20 already, because she's always moving forward. So Megan, when you were little, and I took the time to kidnap you, take you somewhere, do something special with you. Let's start with, give me first a really good memory from that, and then secondly, how that helped you personally with your self-esteem, and then I'll ask another question.
Okay, so a really good memory that I specifically have was I was like 10 or 11, and the local radio station actually hosted a daddy-daughter dance, and that became our daddy-daughter date. But I still remember it because there was like portraits and stuff. Like, it was really well done, and I've always been a princess. So I got to dress up. I got to go out with my dad. It was just very special to me because as well as being a words person, I'm also a time person. So having that one-on-one time with my dad actually made me feel closer to him, and it made me feel like he cared for me as a person. And not just like, oh, I am his child, he has to care for me.
Okay. And how did that help you with like your self-esteem and your self-worth?
Okay, so daddy-daughter dates in general for me are also preparatory for later in life when you find your significant other, because if you don't have a basis set, you don't know what to expect. You don't have a standard. So it very much so set a standard for me. That dad always opened doors. He was very gentlemanly. He set a standard early so that I never had a question whether I was worth being pursued or whether I was worth being taken care of.
That's good.
Yeah.
Abby, same questions.
Okay. I'm not sure if I really have a specific memory from.
Okay, back to Megan.
Little.
No, go ahead, Abby.
From whenever I was little, but I do remember Dad taking us out, and he would kind of alternate who he took out, whether it was me or Megan or Hannah. I don't remember Hannah's a lot because she left early in my life. But I do remember, like, you would take us out to, like, ice cream.
Whoa!
And it was a fun time, and you always made it fun, too.
Sure.
You would crack jokes. You still do. But you would crack jokes, and you would treat us like young ladies and not just, like, you had to take us out.
Yeah.
And then for how that impacted me, I think it was very important to me because, like Megan said, it made me feel a lot closer to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I was being treated and looked at as, you know, not just your daughter, but as, you know, a daughter of the king as well. You treated me very well on dates, and you showed me how I should be treated. Same thing with, you know, how Megan said, it's preparing you. And so now I have a very good standard of what how a man should treat me and how he should act around me, and I don't let anyone treat me less than that. So I think that definitely impacted me and how I viewed myself as well, because then you know that you're worthy of being taken care of and of being treated like a lady.
That's good. That's good. Now I'm going to pick on Abby. I may make her cry, not intentionally, but it may happen. When give you backstory, when Leslie and I got married on our honeymoon, we're very serious people, and beyond all the chase each other around and have fun thing that you do when you get married, we spent a lot of time in prayer and asking the Lord about our future family, and things of that nature. So God gave us names. He gave us 4 names. We didn't know at the time. He gave them to us in order of their birth. So we had 4 names. So we had 4 children. Abby's number 5. So we had 4 children. Matthew's my youngest at the time. He's number 4. And he ended up becoming autistic. And so with that said, my wife at one point says, I think we need one more child. And I'm like, God gave us 4 names. He gave us 5. And so I was really done. I was really ready to raise the 4 children and keep moving forward. And my wife was like, no, there's one more. And it took her 6 months, literally, it took her 6 months to, I don't want to use the term push, because it really wasn't a push, a very nice nudge into having another child. And what put me over the top with saying yes was, I'm a pastor, you know, for those of you who don't know. I think all y'all know. And so she went to the Bible and used the Bible against me. She was good at that. And there's a scripture that talks about a man having a full quiver, talking about his family being full. So she actually studied what it meant to have a full quiver. And a full quiver starts at 5. If you don't have 5 arrows in your quiver, you're not got a full quiver. You got a 4/5 full quiver. At 5 and beyond, it's full. And I'm like, okay, we'll do this. So fast forward 9, 10, 11 months, however long it took for Abby to show up. Took for us to get pregnant and her show up. I don't remember the exact dates and times. I know her birthday, don't hear me wrong, but I don't remember how long all that process was. So there's been a sort of a stigma that I didn't want Abby, I think brought to Abby through the process, which is not true. I just didn't want a 5th baby at the time. But when we decided we're going to do this, I was all in. I was really good with having baby number 5, and she's been a fantastic addition to our home. She's pushed Matthew to become better. For those of you on the podcast, she's put her hand under her chin and made herself look really
super
angelic.
Cute. Mm-hmm.
And she's got the little cherub face going, which is not fully true, but partially true, just so you know, because she's too related to me to be fully angelic. But the daddy-daughter thing, the daddy-daughter time, that I spent with Abby helped to negate that. That helped her realize I actually loved her, and she was special to me. Because she's like, I don't know what she was thinking, but I'm sure in her mind she's thinking, oh, he loves everybody else, but I've heard the story. He didn't want me, which wasn't true. I didn't want a fifth child, but like I said, when we decided to go, I went all in, and I wanted her. So it'll help repair relationships with your children if you'll take time to be with them. So when you do that, it actually sets them up for success emotionally, sets them up for success relationally, and it just really helps them with that. So now, going back to the girls, because I've been talking too much. Back to Megan. Now that you're an adult, and we still do that from time to time, not nearly as much as we did when you were younger, but when we still do that, what's it mean to you now, and how does that help you in your current age and time and space and all the things you have going on now?
So now that I'm an adult, first of all, I am like the introverted person in this family.
She is.
I am. So I stay home a lot. I'm not really motivated to go out and do things usually. So whenever Dad's like, hey, let's go do this, let's go out on a date, it gets me out of the house. So it's good for me because it pushes me beyond the comfort zone that I'm in.
She has to go out into the daylight. Ah!
Listen, introverts are just kind of like emotional houseplants. Give us sunlight and water, we're fine. But it pushes me beyond the comfort zone of I would rather just sit in the house and not have to go out among people. But then it also still is setting a standard because I have not found my significant other yet. So it's still a reminder that I'm still worth it, and that I should still have that standard. Like, don't drop your standards just because you became an adult.
Yep, that's good.
Okay, very good. Abby, same question.
All right, so now that I am...
Now that we consider you kind of an adult.
Weird. Now that I am older than I was...
a moment ago.
Stop it. So I like to go out on dates still with you because I like to talk to you. My dad has a lot of wisdom that he has gathered in his years of pastoring and, you know, learning from God. And so conversations with him are always interesting, and I always learn something new from talking to him. So I like to go out and have that one-on-one with him, whether we're getting ice cream or a meal. We'll sit there and we'll talk more than we eat usually, just because.
Which is saying a lot for me.
But we'll talk a lot whenever we're on our daddy-daughter dates, and I like to do that because I just always feel like I'm learning more, and as I'm becoming an adult, then I'm preparing for what I need to do as an adult, whenever I'm going to become a wife someday and a mother, and I'm going to have family, or whether it's just if I'm trying to like start a business or like make money. I'm always learning things from my dad, and he's always there for me. So
yay, team.
Yay!
So there was a theme in here, if you've been listening at all. If you're on here, you've been listening. But if you're actually listening, and not just hearing, but actually listening to what the girls were saying throughout this time, it's one of the key elements to why I chose to do this, and my wife chose to do this with them, because she does the same thing with them and with her sons. And we have times that we individually take a child and go do something with them. You know, now for my wife with the girls, it's usually costs money because it's a shopping kind of thing. I mean, not that the food doesn't cost money, but I think shopping costs more. The shoes and the clothes
cost more.
I think shopping costs more.
Probably, usually.
You know, ice cream or 3 dresses. Ice cream. Please, ice cream. Anyway, got off topic. Just warning you, dads, it's coming. But one of the things, and one of the reasons why we've done all these things that we've done with our sons and our daughters, is because we want to prepare them, first off, for adulthood. Secondly, we want to prepare them for when they have their own family, when they get married and do that. If you ask any of my children, they all They all swear that I've been trying to get rid of them ever since they were born.
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's not true. But I'm aware, and I've told all of them this since they were little. There's coming a point in time where, especially the girls, they're going to come in. The guys are a little bit less celebratory about this than the girls are, but the girls are big time. They're going to come in, stars shooting out of their eyes. Oh, Daddy, I found the man. He's amazing. He's, I'm in love. And I'm like, yeah, and you're going to leave me. And it's okay, because it's what you're supposed to do. As long as you got the right guy, I'm cool with it. And so they're going to do that. And I tell them, your mother's stuck with me. She's not leaving. I'm not letting her because it took me too long and her too long to train each other. It just takes too long to do that. And after 30 plus years of marriage, we have no interest in starting over with somebody else. We really don't. Just don't. But we want to teach them and model before them, both as a couple and as individuals, how to treat and be treated as a potential spouse, as an adult. When all of my kids hit a certain age, we took them out to a really nice meal, and we gave them a purity ring. All of them except Matthew, because he just doesn't care. But we took all of them out. We bought them a nice ring, and they had that. And we've had the experience. My oldest daughter is now married, and I have grandchildren with Hannah and her husband Chris, but she wore her purity ring all the way up to her wedding day, and so that's pretty cool that it meant that much to her. She had to have some kind of thing at a hospital one time, and she had to take her ring off, and she made sure I had it until she got done, and then she immediately like, where's my ring? She wanted it right back on. So it becomes an important thing for them. It's not just hokey, it's not cheesy. It's something that actually means something, because we took the time to explain to them what that meant. And so we're looking forward to the day that they find their spouses and that they start their families. We enjoyed Hannah and Chris's wedding, and we enjoyed them as a family, an extension of our family. Looking forward to the day that the Prince Charmings that are supposed to come for Megan and Abby show up, and they come in, oh, Daddy, and I'll be like, told you, I knew it coming. For Scott, it'll be, Dad, I found the girl. It won't be, oh, Daddy. It'll be like, Dad, I found the girl. I'm like, cool. That's very good. Does she know it?
That's the important question.
It is the important question. So anyway, it's helping them become capable to set standards for their adulthood, and capable to know how to interact with the potential spouse. So Megan, we only have about 6-8 minutes left. So I want to start with you and talk to me about that, about the standard that you've set now, and what your expectations are because of the daddy-daughter date and the time that we've spent together as father and daughter.
Okay. So I think it's very safe to say that none of the Fatherees girls are feminist at all. So one of the standards we have set is we all three, I think, look, or for in Hannah's case, looked for someone who's very, he's a leader and he's very manly. Like, we want guys who can lead us. We don't look for boys, we look for men. We have the standard of...
What?
That's a whole other podcast.
If you're watching or listening, take notes.
We have the standard of we want men who will open doors for us, who will take care of us, who will take jackets, who will pull out chairs. Like, we have this whole standard of some people would call it old-fashioned, but for us, it's just like what should be done, because that's always how Dad has displayed how a gentleman acts in front of us.
Abby, your turn.
And also to add on to that, we also look for men who are very close to God, and who put God first. It's something that's very important to all of us, all three of us, was that the man that we marry puts God first, even above us, because whenever God's at the center, then your marriage is going to be successful. So I think that's definitely at the top of my list of standards that Dad has set, is that he knows the word and he prays and
Yeah.
he's actively involved with the church and involved in his own relationship with God. And then also, the standard of, being a gentleman, and, Dad always dropped us off at doors.
Yep.
And then he would pick us up. He wouldn't let us walk out in the rain. He would, just do all the things the little things that meant a lot to us. So we definitely put that into our standard for a husband. We want to be treated the way that God wants us to be treated. So
That it?
yeah.
That's it for her. Yeah. So we'll wrap this up. Let me just tell you, gentlemen, dads, chivalry is not dead, and you have to help maintain that. You just heard my daughter say that, one of the fears that a lot of dads have is that there's some jerk is going to come in because he's smooth, suave, well spoken. In my daughter's case, has a certain dialect that they like. They just lost it for those of you on the podcast. They come in and speak in a certain dialect. I'm not telling you what that is because I don't want you showing up. They will come in and swoop your daughter off their feet, and in some cases, literally. And next thing you know, you have a grandbaby that really wasn't quote unquote wanted, even though we always want that relationship with our grandchildren and our children. But they set their life in the wrong path. That's a great fear for many, many dads. And one reason is because some of you were that jerk. And some of you, before you got saved, you're watching and listening to this, you're probably saved now. But some of you, and I'm going to tell you, I was kind of that way, especially in my college years. And so I'm glad that I grew out of that and got my act together, and God gave me a great wife and a great family. But that's a concern. But one of the ways you can alleviate that concern is by setting a standard that they won't fall below, and setting a standard where they're like, "You what? You're gonna make me walk out in that slush? You're not gonna take me through the door? What is your issue, dude?" Here's the thing: if they come to our house and they honk for them to come out, the girls aren't coming out. No. I am, and I'm sending him on his merry little way. Yep. I'm like, my daughters don't respond like dogs. So, Bub, have a great night. I hope you didn't spend too much money on the flowers and the reservation because they're not coming. Because we don't do that. We demand that our girls have a standard for people who are going to be gentlemen to them, going to be take good care of them and watch over them and love them. They won't be perfect, and we get that. We're okay with that. But there are certain things that are non-negotiable, and then they have to negotiate after that. Because once they're married, they're staying married. Because I'm going to make sure that they do, in as much as I possibly can as a father and father-in-law to whoever. And I'm going to be there for both of them and their spouse, and do that. So I always want to encourage you that if you haven't done this in your life, it's not too late to start. And it can impact your daughters and your sons way, way more than you even think that it can. And it helps their self-esteem. It sets a standard for when they're going to be an adult. It sets a standard for when they're going to get married. So we just want to encourage you, don't neglect time with your children. It's an important thing. And some of them, like my oldest daughter, Hannah, her love life is her love language. I don't care about her love life. Her love language is not time, it's gifts. However, she still values the time that I gave her, especially when she was younger. Even now, I give her time when I can. She's awfully busy as a mother of, a gazillion children. So never stop loving them. Never stop giving your time. Never stop giving your insight, like Abby said. She's learned things about different areas of life just by asking questions and having conversations. So it's not just about the food, the ice cream, the movie. It really goes beyond that. Those things are what I call bait. They're the bait to catch the fish, to help the fish know what it needs to have and do. It's kind of when I was a youth pastor, and we'll wrap up with this, I used to use music and all sorts of different things as bait to young people to come into God's kingdom. So use the bait that you have in your hand, the time, the love, the gifts, the appreciation, the hugs, everything you can do to give them that bait that sets them up so that you're catching them for God's kingdom and you're setting them up for success
Mhm.
in their marriage.
Mhm.
You're setting them up for success in their business or their job. You're setting them up for success in their relationships with each other as siblings.
Yep.
We didn't even talk about that, but we don't have time. And you set them up for success in their relationships with other people, co-workers and friends, and extended groups. So I just want to keep encouraging you. Take the time to do that with your children. Girls, any last thoughts before we shut this thing down for now?
I don't have any.
I think we're good.
I think we covered
They say they're good. So we will shut this down. Thank you for listening to the Unbreakable podcast, for being with us on YouTube and Facebook and all the places that you can find us. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to that. A shameless plug, go to theunbreakablefamily.com and buy my wife's book. She's not even here to tell me not to tell you. I love it. So go in. It's called the Family Manual, a practical guide to raising a Christian family. You can find it anywhere they sell books nationwide, Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble. You can find it anywhere that they do that. Online, you can go get the book. But we really want you to come to our website and get it, and let us know and have feedback so we can actually maybe send you a note or something. So go to the Fatherees, I'm sorry, not that one, the unbreakablefamily.com and get my wife's book. It's highlighted on the homepage, really not hard to find. Just hit the button, buy it, and it'll be sent out to you right away. So that's my shameless plug for the day. And thank you again for being on the Unbreakable podcast. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye for now.